India Charts publishes Nifty Daily, daily video updates, the weekly Elliott Wave Outlook, and the Long Short Report covering all asset classes.
So as we go into the final days of the month and into expiration, this is going to be a shortened week because Friday is a holiday, if you have forgotten about that. We just got past the 38% retracement mark, which you see here with this dotted line of the entire move, or even if you take a retracement from this high, which is what I like to do at times, and then to your past this 38% mark. Now, it was a little slow because I think from the early part of the month after that initial move from the 8th of April, you've been gyrating slowly upwards from the 9,000 mark towards the 9,500 mark. There have been several 100, 200 point up and down moves. So you haven't had it smooth sailing, but you have slowly headed higher. So I started running a video on Facebook, some of you may have seen, where I mentioned exactly this, that you would be heading to higher retracements, 50%, 60%, and you need to be open to that. Whether you like it or not. That was my last line. And if you actually read through the comments, you'll find initially a lot of people were simply looking for the market to really fall from here, it'll go back to 6,000 and so on. And the question of, all those things is, it's a question of timing, right? When is that going to happen, from what level, and what is the driver? Like, you've already had this fall, which is driven mostly by the impact of the coronavirus, the news flow that you've already seen. One of the fallouts of that has been the oil price recently, which has been driving most of the news flow over the last couple of weeks. And in the long short report and subsequent reports, I spoke about the oil price actually breaking these swing lows. I thought it will test that, and if it breaks that, then it will go back to test the 1998 low, which was close to the $10 mark. I thought it could happen later, probably when the markets are in the next crisis, maybe in wave C down of a bear market or something like that. But that it's happened already in this leg was pretty interesting. But if you're looking at that as the reason for the market to sell off, which was true when this gap down from $40 to $30, simply because that meant the US shale oil industry takes a hit. But what happened afterwards is when this fifth wave down started, and I thought that was a reason why equities could take a hit, and immediately the Fed announced that they're going to be buying junk bonds. Now, if you didn't understand what that means, the following day the JNK or the HYG, as you see it here, which is the high yield credit bonds, that gapped up. This gap up you see is essentially on that Fed statement that they would be buying these bonds. And how that is important to the oil news is that it means that the biggest problem, because almost half of the junk bond market is in oil related bonds, and those were going to be at risk because the cost of producing oil by US shale is much higher, varying from case to case. Maybe it has averaged down from $60 to $40 over time due to various adjustments that they've made in their business. But they tend to be highly in debt. They have to always borrow to keep expanding production. That's just their business model. And at these low prices, they essentially came into risk. And now that risk has been taken off the table. Now, how this will exactly end, we don't know, but one thing, that if it's being backstopped, what stops them from really capitalizing all of those debts or writing them off, and then you suddenly have companies that can work at a much lower cost from the debt side. So those are things we don't know, but once you know that it's been paid attention to, it explains to you why the markets are no more responding to the oil price. So the oil price falls from $25 to $10, and actually hardly anybody reacts because on the equity side, because that's no more the issue. But then the real issue then is, okay, how much oil do you have? Where do you store it? And it bothered me. I said in my previous podcast that I'm not sure why they did not stop production when you stop production of everything else. So this may have come into an essential commodity that you needed to keep producing. If everything's in lockdown, if people have to stay at home, why isn't the oil production also reduced and in lockdown? So that's one question to arise. And so it really is a factor of how much you're going to be able to produce and store. And if you're going to reach storage limits, which are going to get hit by the end of next month, how can you keep producing? Because you have nowhere to really keep this oil. So it's a senseless case. And so some people don't want to believe that Elliott Waves work on this, but it's so simple that if I just look at this weekly chart, all I had to do was mark it as a 5-wave decline. So that was the outlook. My outlook was that oil was going to fall in 5 waves. Moment it completed the fourth, we were looking for the fifth. My initial numbers were $18 to $16. It ended up being an extended move, much more than I was anticipating. But the point is that we may now be at the end of that. So this is ABC. Okay, this ABC decline may be completing and we start something on the way up. Whether that on the way up is a long-term trend or it's just a short-term counter-trend move, we'll discuss that over time. But when I go into now and gone into a smaller degree, you get a 5-wave decline here, a 5-wave decline here, a fourth, and this one-wave sell-off is a fifth wave. So what you're really seeing in oil now is an initial wave, minor wave 1 and 2. So I've published this today. It's already bouncing back. I think Brent closed positive yesterday. WTI did not, but should eventually. And this is a 66% retracement of this initial rise. So that's a pretty decent one, down to $10. And if I just do ABC, I'll end up at $25. Now, typically after any such sell-off, the idea is you go back and test the fourth wave of the previous move, which is closer to around $28, $29. So those are the open levels, $25 to $29. I think in even a ABC bounce, I'm marking it 1, 2, not knowing exactly what we are developing here longer term. Since you've completed this larger ABC, which is a decline all the way from the 2018 top, which was at $77 odd. So that's what you have. And that's how all of these declines previously have been. So this is a massive sell-off actually when you now look at it on a larger chart. And if I just make this a single color to make it more visible. So the question in my mind is, when you've gone back to this previous low longer term, are you really at the end of a bear market for oil? So now that's, I think, the bigger question. Or are you going to even break these lows and stay below it? Because then you'll have to really go back to looking at a 100-year chart of oil and think up some really big things for that to happen. The only logic which defies all of that is that you cannot really fall below the cost of production, and over time cost of production goes up simply because of inflation, and so there's always a base level for every commodity below which it cannot trade beyond a point. Now, why did it then trade in negative? I think that was it's more a technical glitch issue which they did not resolve. I mean, how can you allow, in a computerized world, you just have to tell the computers a bit below zero is not allowed, and that's it. Nobody will be able to do it. So somewhere systems were not programmed correctly. Some people have tried emailing me and telling me, oh, no, it's because of this and that, it's possible. Well, the MCX just came out 2 days ago and gave a minimum bid possibility on their exchange. So you really can't now put quotes below a certain base level for oil on the MCX. And so that's what should have been the case everywhere. Somewhere if systems overlooked it, the system allowed people to, manipulate the sales into negative territory. Otherwise, that should not have anyway happened for people who wanted to exit a long position that was going to go into delivery. Maybe they could have hammered it down to zero, but sub-zero, that was a little out of whack. So whenever something out of whack happens, it's always at an extreme, which is why I think this low point is the extreme for this move. Which brings us back to the center point. Why are these markets going up? Now, of course, oil is not the issue, but then there are many other issues. You have the economy, which is still weak, but then that's based on a current event. And you can always hope that things will go back to normal once these events pass. And now that you had the initial reaction, so when you get such a big reaction, a 40% drop in markets, they end up discounting all the possibilities that will happen, at least in the near term. So when you start getting a bounce, which is on the back of various central bank actions and government steps to contain the situation, the markets are bouncing back from already having priced in some of the worst from the current scenario, whether you like to believe it or not. So on the bounce, what they're really looking forward to is what happens in the post-crisis scenario, what kind of steps the governments will take. Most of them are at least showing their intention to take steps which will be on the fiscal side eventually, if not now. Some may announce it now. In our case, we always announce things late, so expectations will be that there will be steps to help the industry and economy do much better in a post-crisis world and to help them recover from it. So without that, it's not going to happen. So you have to presume that and work on it rather than look at, current numbers are bad, this data is coming out bad, earnings are coming out bad. That the market has tried to price in first step itself. Now, the final macro picture will be that all this does not improve. Even after the lockdown is lifted, we push the economy back on track. We already had a slowdown running into last year, and a large part of the rise, especially in the US, was on the back of liquidity from lower interest rates and Fed's repo buying into Jan and Feb. So you had all-time highs, even though economic data was already weakening. There are research firms in the US already saying earnings will degrow this year, and so markets were not looking at that until the crisis really came along and made you look at it. And now again, the US earnings numbers projections are still the same, that they'll be bad for all of next year. So should you really respond to those numbers, or should you respond to the liquidity and other measures that are taking place? Now the end question will be whether after all this has been done, will you really go back to the same economic growth levels as before? Because you may bring it back to some new normal, but if that new normal is lower than where we were, then that's an adjustment the markets will have to make in the future. But in the meantime, before markets start even anticipating that, they will try to anticipate us coming out from the current crisis, rather than start pricing in what the economy will look like after all the measures from the government side have been taken. And in that post-crisis era, will you really be seeing growth come back? Because you didn't have growth earlier, the measures were not enough, there was no room, fiscal space to really do anything, and now you have at least a reason to go beyond fiscal lines. And I'm sure most rating agencies will agree not to respond to you doing that simply because it was a crisis. And that room, to what extent you use and what impact can it have, will get priced in by markets only much later. In the meantime, what they're trying to do is price in that people have the worst in their head, and therefore markets are continuing to stretch higher against their expectations, which is more a sentiment play. And therefore you need to have sentiment indicators. I mean, simple things that you could even do, which I talk about, and we in fact discussed in the weekend on in our mentorship, is classic Dow theory. If you're really looking at higher tops and higher bottoms, I think that was the title of my last podcast too, you don't have a trend reversal. Now the only thing is, when do you preempt a trend reversal and when do you wait for it to reverse below a previous swing? So if you have swings that are making higher bottoms all the way to last week's low, there is this one where we went to 9141 and then we are still higher than that. So that becomes the next most important short-term swing, and therefore we are unlikely to, possibly unless we go below that, we are likely to head to the next retracement, because we are past the 38% retracement mark. So that's the immediate expectation you build. The time you try to anticipate extremes is when indicators, whether they're sentiment based in terms of put call ratios, AD ratios and so on, have gone back to levels where they were in counter trend bounces in, say, previous bear market. So if you're anticipating a bear market top, are you really there in terms of those measures? The answer is no. If you haven't looked at those indications, then you're probably trying to call a top simply on bad news without really looking at sentiment. In fact, you could look at the most simplest indicator, RSI. Was it at these levels when previous tops happened in counter trend bounces? And the answer again would be no, because you would have had a higher reading, maybe 60 to 70, whereas right now you're still in the 50s as of now. So you're getting late, but you're not yet there at the extreme, and so you need to wait and see which of the two is happening. You're going to get higher levels, or you're going to continue on this path, and do you wait then for a trend reversal, or do you preempt some kind of top? Now some people have been trying to call this a wedge, again early, because the wedge requires a 5-wave structure A, B, C, D, E, which only you can mark now, I think, at the end of today, the third time you're reaching this trend line of the highs. So if you're trying to mark this A, B, C, D, E, then you probably reach the top end, or the top end is just close to around, just below the 9,600 mark. And so the question is, will you get past this level, or will you halt over here? My sense is maybe temporarily you have expiration, you have a long holiday weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's possible that people give up some trades and you get some kind of a pullback here, maybe into Monday if world markets cool off a bit. But again, that might not change the trend if this is not a wedge. So you can easily call this a wedge and expect it to crash. But if that's not the case, then that's unlikely to happen, and all you'll get is a knee-jerk reaction. So at this point, I don't want to preempt, like I said, because sentiment is not at an extreme. And so I'll wait for a reversal from various other indications, probably short-term momentum indicators, to cross back, even though it's delayed. That would be better than preempting it and seeing that prices just pulled back for a day or two and then continued higher all over again. So last but not the least, the weakest part of the market so far, and an important sector, the financials. This is the bank Nifty, was holding down for all this while, which means it was not going past the high that we made in March at 21,462. Even today, it is below that. 21,348 is where it was. But on a very small pattern basis, this structure, we've actually closed out of. So while we've drawn the same thing, which is slightly upward slanting for Nifty, and we only touched it at 9,600, in terms of Bank Nifty, this trend line is slightly downward slanting, and we actually closed outside of it on the upside. So you want to see whether this breakout holds, which is at around 20,900 odd, and doing so is an indication that you've broken out of this congestion for financial stocks, and probably should see further upside there.